Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We have an amazing deck tech here for you. Decided I wanted to do Obi 5 yellow because this Legends of the Force Obi is just so much fun to play. I believe it's pretty competitive. I ranked him pretty high in my leader tier ranking. You can check out our video on our stream, or at the end of this video, it'll link you right to it. But I wanted to do this deck tech just because I felt this deck was pretty strong. I think it's going to be an easy deck to kind of pick up overall, and for the most part, like you'll be able to play this out of the box, and you'll be able to like take this deck, add a few things in, and just kind of make this deck your own. So I thought, hey, why not do a deck tech on it? All right, so let's talk a little bit about the strategy of the deck. So you have Obi Wan. He comes out on 5 resources. He has an action. You can use your Force token, and you can give an experience token to another unit without an experience token on it. So a lot of the units that we're going to play are not going to be upgraded outside of this specific token. For the most part, this deck likes to just push Force units. It likes to push damage. It's what I would consider a tempo deck that can kind of go aggro if needed. And basically you're giving out experience like candy is kind of what you're doing. You're going to have to control their units once in a while, but you should be able to do some of that and be able to push enough damage to win the game. The Crystal Caves is the 28 health base. Basically what it does is it says whenever a Force unit attacks, you get the Force. So we got a couple of neat little tricks in here that we'll go over that I think will help make this deck really, really good. So let's go over the deck. My deck has kind of changed iterations 3 or 4 times. I will tell you that I have, this is kind of tentatively where I would like it to end up. I will also say that because this is early testing, there is a chance that some of these different things are going to disappear or get replaced. So essentially I have 3 of the Grungy unit, 2 of the Jedi Counselors, 3 Lukes, 3 Padawan, youngling Padawans, I guess is technically what you say, 3 Surprise Strikes, 2 Yoda's Lightsaber, 3 Blue Leader, 2 Grogu, 3 of the old school set 1 Falcon, 3 Obi-Wan set 5 units, 3 Vanestra Rose, 2 Waylay, 3 General's Blade, 2 Ahsokas, 2 of the Ethro Koths, 3 Plo Koons, 3 of the Depas, 2 Sorcerers of the Wind, 2 Kellerans, 2 Qui-Gons, and 3 U-Wing reinforcements. The sideboard is kind of just a sideboard. This is different things that I've been testing out. I think Xi'an Fleury is really good, but sometimes it doesn't get off. So if you don't have enough Force units out, you can't use it if you don't have enough in hand. I've been testing around with Shoot First as well. Maz is kind of really slow, but can do really good things. Jedi Sentinel is really good, but these are kind of just like the pieces that I've been testing out with the deck. Now, the first question you're going to ask is, why do I got U-Wing reinforcements in there for a tempo deck? It's there to be able to repopulate the board. If we get to the end of the game, we can't close it out because we don't have a ton of high-cost units, so we just aren't able to close it out. But we get a U-Wing reinforcement, it allows us to repopulate the board, and then be able to win the game the next turn. A lot of times against control decks or against, other decks that are basically kind of force throwing all this crazy stuff, you want something that'll repopulate the board, and this does it very well. We also play Qui-Gon Jinn, which does kind of a few different little things. It'll allow you to pick up some units. He's just a really good 7/5 ambusher. He almost always dies by the time you get to play him for the resource. You're not really ramping here, but because we have Jedi's Blade and Jedi Counselor, we're able to get dual discounts. We just have to be very careful when we play those. So let's go on to our turn 1 plays. Essentially, the best turn 1 play is a Youngling Padawan, because you get to play it, you get a Force token, you don't have to swing. Grungy is also very good. If you aren't playing against a control deck and it's just kind of another aggro deck, Grungy will live. If you're playing against a Tarkin Town deck, Grungy lives. That's like the best thing is Cat can ping it for 1, but he can't Tarkin Town and get rid of it. So if you're going against like a Tarkin Town deck, Grungy is like he's your bait. He's like the best one you're gonna have to be able to avoid that. We also have 2 Jedi Counselors. You could consider going to 3 of those. I currently am at 2 right now, but they are really good because they're basically, you can use the Force token and then be able to go ahead and discount something. So, for example, your turn 1 play can be a Youngling Padawan. Then you could play the Jedi Counselor down your next turn, and now you're kind of set up with a Force token, something that can swing, and you also have a Jedi Counselor. You can also kind of reverse that, play a Jedi Counselor round 1, and then round 2 play that Youngling Padawan, and then be able to use the Force that you just got with the Jedi Counselor to play another unit at 2 less. So that essentially allows you to play another 2-cost unit, Grungy, or the Luke Skywalker that we have here. He's a great consolation prize if you are going against basically people that are going to try to aggro it down, or if you just need to burn something because you don't have anything else for Tarkin Town. He's kind of a really good unit. He also gives you the Force, so don't count him out. If they don't kill him, you get 3 damage to a base and you get the Force token. Let's move on to turn 2 plays. Depending on if they're going space or not, you have a million different options. So turn 2 is kind of like our sweet spot. Like I said, you can do the weird little Jedi Counselor, then a Youngling Padawan, and then play another card as well for something cheaper. So you have Millennium Falcons and Blue Leaders. If you have something, if they have space that you have to take care of, or you're going against a Vader deck, those are 2 really good options. You can also play a Grogu. I have found that a lot of people do not like to play Grogu. And Grogu is just so good because you can swing into something. He has 6 health. You do 1 damage to that unit. You get whatever damage back to him, and you get to create a Force. He also enables you to be able to take damage off of other units and pass it around. So, for example, if you ambush a Blue Leader in it does 2 damage to something. If you got a Grogu out, you can exhaust Grogu and take that damage off of it and move it somewhere else. Grogu pairs very well with Obi-Wan unit, because Obi-Wan unit just allows you to get down a unit that has Sentinel, then Grogu can start healing some of that damage off of him, so they have to swing into him multiple times. We don't get the 3/5 turret in this deck because we're not playing blue. So this is kind of like a little bit of a variation that allows you to use Grogu to kind of heal. Vanesha Row is probably the best ability that you can have. You are using the Force with Obi-Wan's ability to hand out experience tokens, but think about it this way. If you have a Jedi down round 1, you can upgrade it instantly with Obi-Wan to use the Force. If you know that they're just going to kill it right away, there's no point in upgrading it with the Force. It's better to just play Vanessa Roll, and then she gets to come in ready. She literally is like basically a mini Falcon for the ground for this deck. So you now have space and ground stuff that readies. We also have Waylay if they have a Sentinel or something really bad down. We have Surprise Strike if we really need it to get through something bigger. Han 2 can drop some bigger units, and sometimes you have to take care of it. General's Blade and Yoda's Lightsaber are 2 consolation prizes. You could sub in Constructed Lightsaber, but I put Yoda's Lightsaber in there to kind of help with a little bit of the curve for turn 3. But it also gives you a good turn 2 play if you just need to pump damage into something. So again, for example, if Han has the Force and then Han drops the 4-cost turret, it's a 3/5, because it can reduce that amount of damage. Typically, if you have something that has 2 damage, you're now be able to do 5. They already put 2 damage on them by dropping them a turn early. Even if they use the Force, you can literally swing in and still do the 3 damage that you need with him to be able to kill him. So Yoda's Lightsaber is kind of tucked in there for the Han decks right now. You don't get the health from it. And to be honest with you, like, for the most part, I'm not using it to use the Force to heal 3 damage from a base. But it is okay late game. It does work very well late game to heal damage from a base. But to begin, if you're playing it early, it's usually because you got to kill something right away, or because you don't have anything else. You just need to pump up some damage. Moving on to turn 3 plays. Again, turn 3 is kind of crazy. You have so many different options. The one thing you have to remember is, based on what your hand is, do you need the Force to be in your hand, or can you essentially spend the Force token that you have to be able to go ahead and add experience tokens to things. So one of the neat things about Obi-Wan is you're probably not going to have initiative, but you're always going to have an upgraded unit. If somebody runs a Nebula Ignition against you, like if you get to that stage in the game, you don't care because you're just throwing experience tokens. He has no limit to what he could put an experience token on, outside of the fact is that it can't have an experience token on it. So it's not like a 4-cost unit or a 3-cost unit. It just can't have an experience token on it. So it's actually really, it's really good because it gives you the ability to do weird little things with him that you would not get with other leaders. And that's the nice thing is so when you hit your turn 3, your best play typically is to upgrade something and see if they're just going to try to kill it. If you don't have the force, then you swing in to get your force, and then you upgrade your second unit. A lot of times, one of the big things that you want to do, right, is your turn 3 is you could play 2 cards that are 3 drops. So you could play a Youngling Padawan and a Grungy if you want. You could also play a Jedi Counselor out. If you have the Jedi Counselor out, you can easily play a Luke, a Falcon, or a Blue Leader, depending on what their board state is. But it allows you to have a 2-for-1 option, plus you're still going to be able to get that Force token to upgrade your unit. They will counter if you have somebody that's ramping, right? Or if they are essentially kind of got a bigger unit on board that you need to tap down. Ahsoka allows them to do it. So Ahsoka helps strip their hand, and then on top of stripping their hand, it helps go ahead and say, "Hey, we're gonna stop you here, and then we're going to tell you you no longer can have a readied unit." So if they have something, if you have initiative, you can play Ahsoka Tano right away and not even feel bad about it. And she doesn't require you to have the Force. She just requires them to discard a card. And then it forces them to say, do they want to get rid of their Force throw, or do they want to get rid of a unit that they can't play this turn to tap that you, and now you could tap one of their units down. It's not the best like play ever, but it is really good to kind of figure out whether they have a Force throw or a Force lightning in their hand, because a lot of times they will not get rid of that card. And they'll take a tap down unit instead. The other key is you could play the Enith Koth guy if you are worried about ramp. He does when he comes in, if you have the Force, you can make him a 6/5, which is essentially like what we would be looking at with stats from the last set, where 2 sets ago, where we got Ayla Secura and she was like a 6/5. And so this does similar things. He's very good in the aspect of you can upgrade him, trade into bigger units. A lot of times, like people will be playing a Poe down, then that next turn, and then you could just swing in, and then it helps you ramp. You get the Force, you get to ramp, you get to do it, or you're just doing 5 to 6 damage to base. He's still a good base unit. Your Jedi Counselor will also allow you, if you have 2 other units on the board, will also allow you to Plo, to Depa, or to Sorcerers, the Sorcerer of whatever it is, the Sorcerer guy. And the reason the Sorcerer guy is in there is because he has shielded. So when he comes in, he's a 6/6/6 shielded, which is, you would immediately think this is not very good, but because he has the Force, he can come in early, he just sits there. So now they have to get rid of the token shield or to kill him, or they have to use a spell to kill him. I mean, if they're going to use a spell, they're going to use it on anything else. Who cares? But he is there because then he is able to be played, and then he could swing in immediately the next turn, and he gets you your Force back, and he's doing 6 damage to base. Depa's obviously there for the ambush and for Saboteur. So if they have like a Village Protector sitting out there, you just use Jedi Counselor, play her, and now their Village Protector is dead, and you can continue swinging into base. She also gives you the Force back too, if you didn't know. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about the flip churn. So you should be upgrading your units and swinging into base with them. You don't always trade. If you feel that they're overtaking you on board, then you need to start trading or racing harder. Because he's giving that upgrade token, he's just so good. Hopefully by this point you've had a Jedi Counselor out or some sort of a General's Blade, which is discounting things. But if you haven't, you can flip Obi and actually play that General's Blade. And then Obi now is a 6/9, and they usually don't have the ability to play any sort of card to kill him because they're not 1 turn ahead. But when he flips, the best thing that you can do is throw an Obi-Wan down. You could throw a Plo Koon down, throw a Venestra down. All of those allow you to get use your ambush abilities or have like a ready unit. If you need something in space, there's a Falcon. But a lot of times you want to protect him because he has only 6 health, and that is kind of an issue. Like they can use their ECL and kill him with they can ECL a Poe into him. They can ECL, I don't know, I guess they can't ECL a Wrecker in because they don't have the resources yet, but they could ECL a Poe in, they could ECL a Mason, not a Mace, a Kinamundi into you, and they're maybe not quite killing you, but they're pretty much getting you dead. So playing the Obi-Wan before the flip works really well. If they've already burned through the resource, you could flip him, play the Obi-Wan, and then swing in, give Obi-Wan an experience token, and now he's a 4/6, which is like the sweet spot because you cannot be taken down, and you also cannot be felled. So those are two of the like super huge things that happen with it. Plo is just great if you're wanting to bait him out, like against the Talzin, where Talzin wants to flip because she wants to get that negative, impact into you. You can just Plo her, and it puts her down to 1 health, and then swing it with another unit if you have it. Lots of different things you can do. You can also usually give out 2 experience tokens this round, which is key. Being able to give out the 2 experience tokens, one before the flip, one after the flip, is super awesome. I will tell you there's times where I don't have more than a unit or 2 out, so by the time he flips, there's no experience tokens to give. But that's okay. You still swing in, you still do your damage, you keep going through your motions. Hopefully by now you've gotten over 50 or 60% damage on their base, and it's not too shabby. So turn 5 plays, this is kind of when you should be closing it out. If you need to, you can play your Ewing. Reinforcement, a lot of times you have to wait that turn because you have to have the 7 resources. If you've ramped, you can play it along with your Qui-Gon or your Kelleran. A lot of times that round I like to I hopefully have a General's Blade on Obi or General's Blade on somebody else, and then I'm able to swing in and go ahead and take be able to take my initiative so that I can then bring a Ewing reinforcement in. Being able to bring in Venestra and the Millennium Falcon both ready in 1 turn is super awesome. I have had it before where I've had 1 Jedi on the ground. I've gone ahead, played my Ewing reinforcement, dumped both those 2 units down. Both of them come in ready, and then go ahead and swing in with my other Jedi unit to get another force to be able to add to Venestro, and now she's just swinging in and finishing the game off. So it kind of just depends. If they've wiped your board, that's what you're going to need. But basically, at this point, you become the beatdown deck. You need to race them pretty aggressively at this point to try to get it done, especially if they kill your Obi-Wan or kill your bladed guy. You got to get things down. Qui-Gon, Kelleran, and Source are all hard to kill, and they can give you a board threat for finishers. If they burn their resources, you play something down, they've got 3 units. They now have to decide, are they going to swing in, or are they going to worry about your 1 unit? Most of the time, they're going to have to claim, and then that allows you to be able to go, oh, now I'm at 7 resources, and oh, by the way, now I can bring out 2 of my other units. But they should hopefully allow you to be within striking distance to close that game out. Let's talk a little bit about pros and cons of the deck. I will tell you the weaknesses of the deck in testing so far have been that you don't get a ton of units out, and you can be swarmed a little bit easier. You have a hard time against decks that want to discard you. You don't get to draw a lot of cards, and that might be something we have to look at in the future. I don't know 100% how much Pillage and Force Throw and Force Lightning are going to be, in play. I do know the Force Throw and the Pillage is a big thing right now, and people are using it to help control decks. We do not get Force Throw, which I don't care about because I like this deck, and I think this deck is more fun, and it's very annoying to play against. So I don't think you have to worry too much about Force Throw. You usually keep at 2 costs or 3 cost units, or the events or the blades, and it doesn't fully kill everything, but Force Throw can be kind of a pain in the butt, and we don't get it, so we don't get to play with it. The other thing is we don't typically get the initiative, so that is kind of the other little key here. Is you're usually handing out experience tokens, so you're 1 action short. I really wish Obi would just be, when you play a unit, You exhaust them, use the force, and give an experience token to that unit. But this does make it a little bit more versatile. So if you play 2 units in a round, you can, experience one game, and next round you can experience the other one. But on the opposite side, Obi hands out experience like it's candy. So, and it's very good when he flips and has 3 units on the board. You can plow a unit in, flip Obi, give an experience token to Plo. So now Plo basically is a 4/7 and with whatever damage on him, and he typically will then take out anything else that tries to kill him. We are a very force heavy deck. We are able to trigger the force quite easily. There's very few cards in here that do not trigger the force, for good or worse. Which then also means your Jedi's blade works very well, and your Yoda's lightsaber works very well. This deck is fast and it can go tall. So it can kind of do either of or. When Obi flips on 5, you can almost always activate Plo. And then as long as you're not going against another Plo deck that can do the same thing, you get to give them that experience, like I said earlier. This deck is fast. It can be a tempo or an aggro deck, based on what you need. It can also control their board a little bit more if you need to be the control deck versus the beatdown. It does give you that ability to do some of those things. So this screen's crazy. These are cards that are not in the deck that I would consider. I originally was testing Ezra out, and I did not like Ezra. It felt a little slow. Ezra becomes a bigger target. Anakin Skywalker is a great unit to be able to play, and he has the ability to be a 1-drop on turn 1 that they have a harder time killing. It can get you the force. It comes in shielded, and it's great force throw material. The Dagon Master, I think, is fine. The biggest issue I have with it is, like, I'm spending a force, looking for my force units. It is a 5/5/5, so it does help me dig, but because I have so many force units, I don't know if I really need that dig. The Life Sage win gets raid 2. Other than that, that's kind of milk toast. But it might be a good option if we need to be able to push heavier damage. Luke, I tried playing Luke, and I don't have enough unique, I don't think, in here. There is a lot of unique ones in here. We do have quite a few, but I think if we're going to play Luke, we have to change out our deck a little bit to be able to acclimate Luke. Ahsoka, I don't know. She's great because she gets ambush if you have less units on the board. You can pick her up and put her back in your hand. I typically don't have resources to do that. So I kind of have avoided playing her. But I think she would be worth testing. Ayla is even less of a test. She is great because she's kind of got shoot first built into her, but you have to have the units out for it, A. And B, you don't have an ambush. So if we were running like an ECL base, then she's really good because it gives you ECL targets. But I kind of cut her based on the fact that it wasn't something I could easily work in. Breaking in is really good if we're going to be playing against Sentinel heavy decks. That's a high consideration to sub in over Surprise Strike. I like the Surprise Strike reach, but I'll be honest, because we're adding the experience, I think break-in is probably fine. I haven't tested a ton with it, and the only Sentinels I'm running into is Bloody Churret. So I don't know. It might be something to consider, though, swapping those two out. Now there are 2 of them was another consideration. I cut it because I just felt it was not worth it. It's easy to control those units, and we don't have a control piece to them the way others do. So it's a little bit harder with our removal suite, to be able to use it. Ahsoka's lightsaber is really good if you get it on Ahsoka, but it is also nice force throw material, and it is a 1 cost +2. That is a consideration, as well as, like, I had considered the Hotshot Blaster, and I think Hotshot Blaster probably would go in over this, but it is, like, nice. Both those are nice force throw material if needed. Timely Intervention, I don't know. I like Ambush. I think that's a possibility because it gets you the force right away, but it's also eating a resource. So I think it's probably too good to be true. I have not tested Leia, but Leia and Han are both on the possibilities list because of what they can do. I do not agree that Leia is super amazing in terms, unless you have a lot of units out, but she can, like, help close games out. So you could play her. You could play her on turn 5 or turn 4, right? And if as long as they haven't cleared your board and you have units on the other side, then you can flip your Obi and go ahead and use the Force, and everybody gets +2/+2, and maybe be able to close the game out. I haven't tested enough of her. We usually don't have enough units on the board for her, but I do think that that could be a consideration. And I think there's more testing that needs to be done with her. Chewbacca is just really good because they can't remove them as easily, but because everybody's playing a lot of units, we don't have a ton of space units. I kind of cut them onto the floor for now. And Guerrilla Soldiers is great, but they don't get you the Force. It's typically usually 5 damage, though I will say with all the Grogus running around, I do not like that card because I played against some people playing Grogu, and like a Han, for example. A Han brings Grogu out. You play this, they put those damage on them, they claim, and next turn they're just dealing it back to you, and you just lose your unit for free for them. Like, they don't even have to spend a card to do it. So I don't know if this is going to be the play this set. I do like it last set, but I don't know if this set's it's going to be the play. So my current actual sideboard right now is the Maz's and the Jedi lightsabers. Like, this is just testing, so I don't know which one it is for. The Bounty Hunter's Quarry is really good for digging. I really enjoy it, but if people are going to be running a lot of removal, it's kind of going to have to go onto the floor. Like, there's no point in it. Like, if everybody runs Confiscate because of lightsaber upgrades and Force Throw, then I don't see Bounty Hunter's Quarry being effective enough for the value. Shoot First is a really high consideration of mine. I played that a lot based on the Grumpy Elephant recommendation when he was running the Quinlan ECL deck. I still like Shoot First. I don't know if I want to use it as much outside of like against aggro decks, but I do think against aggro decks, when you have to be the control, it does help a lot being able to keep your units on the board. Xian Flurry is kind of the similar to that. It allows me to be able to ambush something in. It gives the -2 damage back, so it's kind of good. I'm not super sold on it either, though, because like it's another card spot, plus it's like an action. Like, you are essentially you're paying 1 to be able to do this, and I think it's good. Like, it can be good if you need to get your Force, but I don't know. I just don't. I haven't had enough success where I wanted to keep it in there for it. Maz is a higher consideration because Maz actually allows you to attack with a Force unit when played, and it gives you the pluses for it, and it gives you a body. That's a 3/4. She is not a Force body, though, so I'm a little concerned about adding her in, but I have played around with her, and I do think like when I need to start pumping decks up, I think she still is pretty good to do that. The Jedi Sentinel is what it is. It's a Sentinel. Do we need Sentinel? Yes, probably. There you go. That comes in for that. The Stinger Mantis, I don't know. I threw that in there as a sideboard because when I had played it in testing, I wanted more space. And because like a lot of what it can do kind of depends on, you know, how how everybody else is going to be playing against it. Like, so basically you can deal 2 damage to an exhausted unit, so it does kind of help. Like, when you're trying to get rid of a Sentinel, it does really help. It is a 4/6 in space, so it is nice, but it is not a Jedi, it is not Force, it doesn't do any of that stuff, but it is a nice space unit. And like, I have needed it like against the Vaders, because I could just bring it in, and like sometimes they have a couple of damage on their Victor Leader, and now it's gone. I have also used it against Sentinels. Like I said, like I can play it if they play, you know, a turret, and a turret is just sitting there. Sometimes I could play this and just do 2 damage. And because it does not need to be a unit that was not played this turn, as long as everything comes in exhausted for the most part, it just does damage, which I think is really good. Yoda, if we're going to start going late game, Yoda is a consideration. I don't 100% know if I want to use it. I know Yoda is very good in a lot of decks, but I just think we're ending the game before we get to him, and so he's probably not needed. But you could convince me maybe instead of Ewing that Yoda would be better. I don't know. So Yoda was kind of that consideration all along. So now that you have seen everything, you've seen the deck, you've seen kind of my strategy behind it, let me know in the comments like what you think. Like, is this something you would play? What would you sub in and what would you sub out? Like I said, I've been playing around with this and like I have a 70% win rate, but again, this is also like very early meta. You don't know how the meta is going to flesh out. I've ran into some very weird decks because everybody's testing. Like, I've played against more Ray decks than I care to tell you about, because and new set Ray, not old set Ray. So people are testing a lot of things out, and so I can't guarantee this will be super amazing, but I can tell you that for the most part, this deck is going to be very fun to play. It's relatively cost effective to be able to play it in this set. You can sub out the few costly legendaries that you have in there if you need to. We don't know what this set's legendaries will be, so I can't tell you whether Qui-Gon's going to be like super high cost, but Qui-Gon could be subbed out. Like, you can find other yellow units if he's like super expensive. But other than that, like the Millennium Falcons are the highest cost cards so far in this deck. Everything else for the most part like is cheap. I don't think Grogu's will be super expensive because they're going to be coming. There's going to be a lot of them coming out. But you could get rid of Grogu too if needed, if you wanted to make this a budget friendly deck and say, I don't want any legendaries in here. There is replacements for Grogu. There is other like spaceships you can put in, different things that you can do. And if somebody wants me to, we can make a budget deck and post it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, like us, and check out some of our other videos. I have this is our deck tech section, but I also have a weekly podcast that we do where deck techs do not normally go into, but we do like some look at first deck lists, and we kind of talk. That's where I discovered this deck, and I was like, hey, this has been testing well, and so we talked about it, and then I tested it more, and it did really well, and so then I was like, well, let's play this. Let's do a deck tech, because I'll tell you what, this deck is so fun to play. It's just this deck is just a really fun deck to play outside of everything else, and you get to play a bunch of Jedis, and I don't know. That's what this set's gonna be. I'm excited that we have a new Obi Wan. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the flippity flop.